go.
Streaming from South Africa to the world. This is the Stonks Go Moon podcast. What just happened? We break it down so you don't have to.
Welcome everyone to the Stonks Go Moon podcast. My guest today, Nick Forster, is the co-founder of Lyra. Welcome to the pod.
Thank you for having me.
Something about Australians and this podcast that they keep getting connected with them. That's awesome. Listen, mate, you are, in terms of the people who have come onto this podcast, quite still young. You're like 28 years old. My research says that you started Lyra when you were 24. Most people at the age of 24 don't really even know what they want to do, but yet here we are. Like, how did that come about for you?
Yeah, I mean, I was pretty fortunate in that, you know, you mentioned Australia, like we do some odd things in crypto and have done kind of historically. And we had a guy who was claiming to be Satoshi. His name's Craig Wright. He's still in the news at the moment. And his house got raided by the tax office. Yeah.
Is he Satoshi? Like real, like on?
No chance. Zero chance he's Satoshi. But his house was like happened to be on a street I'd spent a lot of time growing up near because one of my close friends lived there, and it got raided by the tax office here. And so I fell into Bitcoin in like 2015, and then Ethereum in 2016. Went off to work in finance. Always kept in touch with Ethereum, and you know, I worked in options, which, you know, what Lyra is doing, which is the project I co-founded and working on currently. And you know, when we spotted the opportunity to build something on Ethereum, and a useful financial primitive at that, I wanted to jump on it. So that was really what got it going. But yeah, I've been sort of passively in crypto for quite a while now.
Before we get into what Lyra is, I want to delve deeper into what got you into trading in the first place, because everyone's got an origin story. What's yours?
Yeah. It was actually, so I hated networking at university. I couldn't stand it.
And that's a bit of a problem. That's a bit of a problem, right?
It is a problem. And you know, you have all these business school guys. I studied maths, and it's all these like business school guys who go to these drinks for accounting firms and stuff. And it just drove me nuts.
And now it makes a lot more sense. You studied maths.
Yeah. But there was one company, that they had a networking event on for the maths guys, which was a poker tournament. I'd grown up playing poker with my friends and like kind of studying some of the.
What are we counting? Are we counting cards? Are we like? But I just any tricks, or are you just good?
Tricks, just math, just math.
Just math. Okay, just math.
Yeah,
okay.
Just probability and yeah.
Yes. Yeah. No. I know a couple of poker players, like quants, that are poker players. They're very good. You do not play against them. They will fleece you. They will absolutely fleece you with maths. And I'm like this whole thing about you can go in there with a poker face. No, you can't. They know every probability before the hands even, you know. Okay. So sorry, go on.
No, that's bang on. And so that was the only networking event that actually attracted my attention. And so I went off to this poker sort of event, got lucky and ran deep in this tournament they were running, and hit it off with the firm, like, which was a quant trading, like options trading firm called Susquehanna International Group. So that was my foray into trading and options. Was you know, that was my first job out of university.
Awesome. So they basically said, oh, here's this guy, he's good with numbers. It's like what's that series? It's like Suits, but just for accountants. So why? Okay, so my logical second question would be, why not continue on that journey, like go and work for a hedge fund or Goldman Sachs or one of these guys?
No, yeah, I mean, I went off to work in the US. So I started in Australia. I traded options out of Philadelphia, actually, which is their headquarters, for just over 3 years. Loved it. Honestly, trading is so much fun. So like I was right in the middle of the sort of meme stock mania 3 years ago. That my desk was playing a pretty big, you know, a non-trivial role in that whole kind of episode with GameStop and AMC. it's making a comeback right now. It's kind of giving me some flashbacks.
Okay.
But so that was, it was great. I loved it, had a great time. But as I said, I've always been passionate about Ethereum and trying to and more broadly like finance, how the world works, how money moves around, improving that. And to me, I think the biggest unlock of the blockchain is it's the only meaningful way you can mount a challenge to what's currently ossified and exists as the current financial system. And that's what always drew me to it. When I first heard about Ethereum, and yeah, so combining my option skills with the passion for sort of trying to change how finance works, and that's how we got to quitting my job in 2021.
Those 3 years that you spent in the States, did you see something that you didn't know when you were? I always say to people, you go inside the belly of the beast and you see how the sausage is made. Did you sort of, was it a wake-up call for you, or was it sort of, I know this is how it works?
No, it was. I mean, just the sheer scale of the money that flows through those financial markets, how much information flows through and kind of accrues to different parties within that ecosystem, and how hard it is to break in. The barriers to entry for every firm that's kind of involved in the trading process is enormously high. And that's not like a nefarious or sort of
what it is,
conspiratorial thing with the firms in that industry. It's just like the natural progression of the when you set up the rules of the game 100 years ago, and it just organically develops over 100 years, and there's rules that build up around it, and there's tech investment, and it just gradually tends to oligopolistic kind of type structures where a few players just take an enormous advantage, and it's very difficult to give it up. And that was why I saw blockchain. If you have a system which routes a lot of the traffic, maybe through options or another product, and on the blockchain, and you decide to hike up your prices, or you try and consolidate your advantage in some ways, it's very difficult because you're immediately kept in check by the potential to be forked, or someone else coming along and undercutting you. It's much more competitive and better for users, I think, over the long term.
Okay, let's get into Lyra. Right, so you always had a passion for crypto, kept pace with Ethereum. So for those that don't know, in layman's terms, what is Lyra?
Yeah, Lyra is the largest on-chain options exchange. And so we don't just do options, there's options and perps. You can trade them both out of the same account. And the extremely cool thing about Lyra is you can build financial products, payoff structures, whether it's to hedge a certain asset or to generate yield and come and earn, US dollar premiums on your assets. You can package that up and, kind of offer that to people in a tokenized form through Lyra. And, we have the sort of best off-chain capabilities of a centralized exchange with the strong self-custodial on-chain guarantees that, all of our risk engine, margining, it's all done on chain. You can verify it. There's no special privileges, and it's all self-custodial. So it's I think a one of a kind in crypto. There aren't many, in the space that have the kind of setup that we do. And it's we're just starting to really get the engine going and beginning to build products for the wider Ethereum ecosystem, and exporting them as tokens.
Are you a coder? Can you code?
It depends who you ask. So if you ask the engineers on the team, they will tell you no. I grew up and learned a lot of the statistical kind of programming languages like R and a bit of Python. I did some full stack web development at some point, and enough to get us going. I did a little bit of coding for our version 1. And quickly got kicked off by our CTO, probably 4 months in, and he just took over. So I was responsible for a lot of the early financial engineering decisions, and things like that, and have been really going forward.
Okay, but you're speaking about an engine, and so whenever I hear the term engine, I think of, okay, there's code involved, right? So you had to have an idea, or you guys had to have an idea of, okay, cool, this is what we want to build. How did you set up finding the people to sort of come with you on this journey and to help you? Because you didn't do it on your own. That's I think, a fair assessment at this stage.
Yeah, definitely not. Absolutely not. Didn't do it on my own at all. So we had I have three co-founders
Okay.
alongside me. So one of them, two of them were, if you're familiar with, have you heard of Synthetics? Like one of the original.
Yes. Synthetic. Yeah.
Yeah, so they were early, like kind of on the founding engineering team for Synthetics, which at the time was Haven, which was a stable coin back in 2017, I think, or 2018. They ICO'd. It was really early. And so they were both engineers there. One of them, Mike, was on the white paper, and that's who we got going with. And then Jake, who I knew from high school, actually, he was working as an engineer at Meta, like WhatsApp in San Francisco, and I pulled him in to help us build our first sort of front end UI. And from there, we've kind of drawn on our collective network to find friends like who've helped us with the financial engineering PhDs, quants, and we've also hired a lot through Discord, just from people who found us organically once we went live in 2021, and read our white paper, liked what we were doing, and it's honestly been one of our best hiring funnels.
Not bad for a guy that says he doesn't like networking. It seems to me that you're pretty good at it. So must have been a hell of a poker tournament, my friend. Because in this day and age, right, that's why I'm so interested in where people find each other, because you get these people, I want to build something, or I want to do this, and then it's like, okay, now where do I go? So that this person is not going to stab me in the back, I'm not going to get fleeced, or he's not going to attack my idea. That's why I'm asking, like, networking is pretty important, and like the sort of the people where you get them.
Yeah, totally. And I have come around to networking, just not that it was just told to me in university as this thing where you put on a suit and you go talk to a bunch of accountants and consultants at a place that serves canapes on small plates. And
it's totally different in the real world.
Totally different. And thank God for that.
So I did some research, and you must help me if I'm wrong, but you recently partnered with EtherFi and Swell Network.
That's right. Yeah.
And offering a high API on liquid restaking tokens. What's that all about?
Yeah, so I think this is kind of the start of our next phase of what Lyra can be. So we built, as I said, this engine where you can come and trade options and perps, and we can manufacture and create payoffs that represent like a yield-bearing strategy, or like an insurance strategy. So you can hedge downside on maybe ETH or different assets. You can come trade on Lyra. And this is one of them. So for us, the liquid restaking and the eigenlayer ecosystem. So, there's ETH, it's staked, and now, it's staked to secure the Ethereum network, and then restaked, so to potentially rent out that network of operators who can go and secure other functions, other decentralized applications. So things like maybe oracles, bridges, potentially Lyra itself in the future at some point. And for that, like there's a lot of these restaking protocols are trying to, reward people who are performing that service with yield. So for us, like one of the early ways that they're trying to differentiate is making it an attractive place to hold their token while they begin to, assemble their networks and bootstrap network effects. We can come in and offer them and tokenize and build products and financial products uniquely using options on top of that collateral, on top of their tokens, to make them useful, to generate premiums for their users in the meantime, with some risk. Like there's some trade-offs, right? So potentially there's always risk, like there's always trade-offs, particularly with options. But it's the kind of payoff that we think there's a lot of demand for. We're just about to hit 10 million TVL in under a week of being live with these vaults. So, we're confident that we can grow that to, 20, 30, 40 million over time, and really start to show what we can do for all of these projects who need sustainable yield in a responsible way too, right? Like in a non-inflationary way. Yeah. Because there's lots of...
In a non-FTX way.
Yeah, exactly. So, there's a lot of sort of sleight of hand games that can be played in crypto with token supplies and locks and things like that. Yeah. And I think that's why, like, if you look to how traditional finance has functioned, those, like, you can avoid doing that by, shifting risk from people who are willing to take it in return for yield. And that's what options do really well. So that's kind of what we're trying to do here. And, we're going to expand from EtherFi and Swell as well. They're great partners, and we'll build those products for them and hopefully improve their ecosystems.
That's awesome. The ecosystem is expected to double in the next couple of years. Like, what are your predictions for the future of DeFi and crypto in general?
Yeah, I think like taking like a really big step back, just imagining the setup in like over like a 10-15 year time horizon. There's like two competing systems. There's the traditional system, which is very, very slow to upgrade. It takes years to implement a change. I think they're about to change from T+2 to T+1. They switch from T+3 to T+2 settlement. So like this is how long it takes to settle a trade, right? Like it can often
yes.
It's 3 days, no, 2 days. It's going to 1 day, but that whole process takes half a decade, right? Crypto is this open network where people can come and join, and they sign up and they develop things every single day. You can spin up an asset transfer or like a value transfer protocol like by forking Uniswap in 10 minutes. In the same way that it would take you years to do if you were trying to go through the processes in traditional finance around the world to go and set that up. And I think the velocity at which DeFi moves is often lost when you're sort of really in the weeds, but an open source system sort of building upon itself, I can't really see it losing over a 10 to 15 year time horizon. So I think more specifically, the way that's starting to manifest now, and we're going to come back around to it, is more and more assets are being tokenized, real world assets. I think we're going to continue to build out, infrastructure, like real financial infrastructure atop Bitcoin and ETH and the sort of derivatives and the bonds that emerge from them. I think staking changed the game 2 years ago with ETH shift to proof of stake, and I think we'll continue to see a number of sustainable products built around those yields.
Man, that's such a mouthful, and it's such an interesting time to be alive because it feels like this truly generational shift in finance from the old guard to the new guard, people that are coming from traditional finance into crypto saying, hey, there's a better way or a more transparent way to do this, and we're gonna build it now.
100%, yeah. And I think it might take longer or shorter depending on what certain regulators or what certain how capital is allocated within the space.
Yeah.
But I don't see it missing over a long enough time horizon.
Awesome. Nick, thank you so much for joining me today. If the listeners want to connect with you and find out more about Lyra, where can they do that?
Yeah, at Lyra.Finance on Twitter, or Lyra.Finance is the website. And yeah, you'll find me, I think, somewhere along the lines there.
Somewhere. You'll find Nick somewhere. We put the links in the comments. To our listeners, peace, love, and prosperity. Catch you in the next one. Cheers. Choices wide. With Lyra, we take the ride. In the core, our futures bend. No borders, no walls to land. Options open, choices wide. With Lyra, we take the ride. Where finance is free, where dreams and dollars find their key. DeFi options trading's the new dawn. With Lyra leading, we are drawn.